First, a special report on the threat faced by British bees from an invasive species, the Asian hornet. Fiona Evans got the story.
The UK is being invaded by an apex predator that fills British beekeepers with fear, the Asian hornet.
They find your hive, and your hive's doomed, really.
Just one can kill up to 50 bees a day, which could cause havoc to our ecosystem.
They could very quickly decimate our native bee populations.
They've already made themselves at home across Europe and in the Channel Islands.
Got the one up the road there. We've got another one in the valley there. That's 3 up there.
And it's a race against time to stop them taking a foothold in the UK. But is it already too late?
The horse is bolted and it's out of the field, it's past the next field and it's in the next village.
The humble bee, a vital cog in every ecosystem. But their numbers are dwindling. There's climate change, loss of habitat, and now British insects are facing another threat. A new invasive species, the Asian hornet. An average nest of hornets can consume over 11 kilos of insects in just 1 year.
They'll hover around the entrance of a hive, and as the honeybees try to leave to go to forage, they will swoop and catch them in midair.
They're coming along here somewhere. It's got to be around here somewhere, Dan.
So the National Bee Unit are on a mission.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can see it there. It's up in the tree there. Oh, right at the top. You got it there? You see it in the binoculars?
Yeah, there's a couple scurrying around.
Yeah, it's a decent size, that. Right next to the pond. The pond on the other side, so we've got to be careful of that.
They're tracking Asian hornet nests in a bid to eradicate them from the UK. This nest has hundreds of hornets inside, which could quickly turn into thousands. It's a vital operation in the fight to stop the spread of the invaders.
Another one done. Move on to the next.
As pollinators, bees need to be protected.
Bees pollinate about 37% of all of our food crops. There's also certain plants that are only pollinated by certain species of bees, so we might lose those altogether. Ecosystems are all super interconnected. That can have huge knock-on effects.
There were a record number of sightings of Asian hornets in the UK in 2023. And the National Bee Unit destroyed 72 nests in 56 locations, most of which were in Kent. Beekeepers like Tony know just how dangerous these hornets can be.
If they find your hive and it's at the point of time where they're looking for protein to feed their brood, it's a feast for them. So they come down to your hive, they'll hawk around the hive, and it might only be 5 or 6 of the hornets hawking. The bees then stop foraging, they stop coming out, and they starve. And then the wasps will come in and finish them off, and then the Asian hornets will finish the wasps off.
For British beekeepers, their biggest fear is the UK ending up like their neighbours across Europe. It's believed they first took a foothold in Europe when they were transported to France all the way back in 2004 in a pottery shipment from China. Asian hornets are native to Southeast Asia, but the hornet is now established in France, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, Portugal, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, and Jersey. When they first emerged in France, the authorities largely left beekeepers and individuals to handle the problem themselves. This beekeeper lost 35 of his hives in just 1 year.
If
you don't set up the traps, you see the hornets fly in front of the beehive entrance. They choose their menu, they catch a bee, and they fly away with it to go and cut it into pieces in a quiet little bush. It's very hard. When you see that all day long, it's just sad.
À longueur de journée, c'est triste.
Of course, from France, it's just a hop, skip and a buzz to Jersey.
Directly behind me, about 12 miles away, is the coast of France. And we're in this little valley, and we know that the hornets come in at the valleys. They're getting blown across or can fly across in about 15 minutes on a following wind. We have to accept now, after 8 years, that we've got a local population as well.
John's been fighting the flow of Asian hornets from the continent since 2017.
We're winning some of the battles. The war can only be won, really, if the authorities in France were more effective in dealing with their population. And so we know that although we would say that we can eradicate them locally, we know that each spring the new queens emerging in March and April, potentially in France, can fly across, or we have regular boat trips to and from the French ports around here. So they couldn't be coming in on our human transport, which is how this insect moves around.
335 nests were found in Jersey in 2023 alone. These vast numbers do give an opportunity to do some research.
The only chance we've got of managing them and controlling the species, we can't eradicate them now they're here, so the only chance we've got of managing them is to actually understand them. If we can understand a bit more about their behaviour, to do with building the nests, reproduction, feeding, then we've got a chance of actually controlling them. They're aggressive when they've just been removed from the nest. They're not generally aggressive once they're away from the nest. It's only when they're defending the nest that are they really aggressive. You've got to wait till it gets in the right position. You're rotating it and lifting it slightly till it gets in the right position. There we go. So we come up with some new techniques for tracking them. Attaching streamers to them, which reduces the time it takes to find a nest quite significantly. There, hold it. Put a tiny blob of glue on the thorax of the hornet. That's now stuck on. You can test it a little bit just by sort of moving it side to side and make sure it doesn't come off there.
And the whole point in this is that you can now spot where it travels.
That hornet will, you can now see that hornet with naked eyes. You can probably see that hornet for 200 or 300 metres flying, and with binoculars even further. Whereas before, normally, without a streamer attached like that, you'd be lucky to see them go more than 30, 40 metres before you lose sight of them.
And it will lead you back to the nest?
Yes.
It's probably going to be up there somewhere.
There.
Volunteers are vital in the mission to track and trace the hornets.
Right, this is where we were having the activity. They were flying up to underneath here.
People set out traps for them, not to kill them, but to follow them.
I'm going to put a tray here.
From these baits, how many nests do you think you're seeing?
Well, we've got the one up the road there. We've got another one in the valley there. That's 3 up there, 1 over there, 4, and 1 at the fort 5.
Once they're in the trap, volunteer Nikki can attach the tinsel or streamers.
I need my glasses. No, he's very jittery. Wait till he settles. You need patience for this job as well, which I don't have very much of, so this time I've got him. But we'll give it a go because I want to find this nest. No, not in my bag. Not in my bag. Go away. There. There's your tray. Look. I think they'll most probably be from different generation nests. So we'll go for the larger hornets first, and because they're the strongest, and
that's the one you've put the tinsel on.
That's the one I put the tinsel
there
on. There he's going now.
Timing how long it takes for the hornet to travel from the trap gives an indication of how far away the nest is.
100 metres per minute, there and back, will give me an indication of where the nest is. The trap from below, they weren't flying up into the trees, they were flying through. It looks as if it's going to be in the undergrowth up there.
Instead of attaching the tinsel, volunteers can also mark the hornets with ink.
And why would you, when do you decide whether to dot or whether to tinsel? Is it on the size of the hornet?
It's purely the environment that we're working in. In an open environment like this, we can rely on sort of just observing the insect fly away. If we're working in a wooded valley, within 20 metres, you've got a block of trees, so you can't see a thing.
It's been a long fight.
It's very busy. Lots of hornets.
But their work to protect the island's bees is paying off so far.
People often think that we must have lost lots of hives here in Jersey, as they have in continental Europe. However, because we've been at this from the very start, we were ready for the hornets when they arrived. We've kept the numbers down to perhaps 10 hives in 8 years that we know about officially.
Just take a look at the size of this nest. This would have been home to a colony of around 3,000 Asian hornets. And beekeepers from Kent and Sussex are coming to Jersey to learn what they do here to help them in the southeast fight against this invasive species.
Just like in Jersey, the British public have been warned to be on the lookout so teams can track and kill the hornets. The Asian hornet is much larger than your average honeybee or wasp. Whilst it's slightly smaller than the European hornet, which is native to the UK, it can be much more aggressive when in defence mode, including to humans. It's mostly black except for a yellow band at its end. It also has yellow legs and an orange face.
Our European hornets evolved here for hundreds of millions of years, just like the Asian hornets evolved alongside the species over in Asia where they live. Through this evolution, their tactics and the tactics of their prey can balance each other, whereas when you put the Asian hornet suddenly where the other species have no idea what it is, they have no idea how it's going to attack them, and they haven't had this time to evolve, they've got absolutely no chance.
If someone spots one in the wild, they can report it to the government via the Asian Hornet Watch app. Currently, only the National Bee Unit and a select few licensed officials have permission to destroy the nests.
Once we have a report, we may triage it with photographs, which will give us an option to do a visual ID to make sure that we are dealing with the Asian hornet, or the yellow-legged hornet as it's becoming increasingly known. They will then come out, have a look at the site, and then begins the process of triangulation and mapping to follow the hornets. So bait traps will be put out.
So we'll wait for the next one, we'll map the next one when it comes back, yeah? We'll just wait now down for her to come up and walk up the net for us. And of course their Achilles heel is that they are regular feeders on a bait station. They'll keep returning to the same bait station, and they fly in a very straight line when they're going back to the nest. Here she comes.
From the bait trap, they can see where the hornets are flying.
Let's have a look up in here.
We use software which they'll track on the software the direction of flight. The data we're seeing at the moment, yes, we are still very strongly in the eradication phase. We have enough resource that we can do the spring and autumn trapping, even though we were talking 14,000 checks, in the spring trapping alone. It's a lot of resource. But if that means that we can cut the number of nests we find down by a third, that to me is time well spent.
Tony isn't so convinced.
I don't think anybody feels that feasible other than DEFRA, to be honest. The horse is out there, it's gone past it. We've got Asian hornets in areas that have spread across the country to a degree from where it was last year. They've only got to miss one nest and it's off again next year.
Back in Jersey, they're also not hopeful for Britain's future.
I think they're going to be in for the same sort of numbers and quantities that we've had. Hundreds of queens being trapped in the spring, many hundreds of nests per equivalent area the size that we got. They've got larger areas where there's not a high population, so that it's going to be more difficult to do exactly what we've done with our small sort of but dedicated team of trackers. So I think they're going to probably struggle a bit more than we have to keep the numbers down.
We've actually got a chance of keeping them out of the UK, but once they sort of establish themselves here and start breeding, I think that's no longer feasible.
Whilst the future is uncertain, one thing is for sure, the beekeepers and volunteers won't give up in their war against the invasion of the hornets.